So recently I was at the IWF show, so much to see. One of the cool innovations that I liked was this grit grip. Check it out. So it's sandpaper. It has this material in between two layers, so it's double-sided. And one thing that I've always done with my 220 grit sandpaper is I just take the 8x11 sheets and I glue them back to back. It just makes it easier. Your fingers grip one side as you're sanding. This guy has taken this to a whole new level. He has some kind of material in between there, and so what's awesome about it is when you bend it, it does not kink. Unlike this will just, kink right in half. It still works for what I use it for. I mean, this is typically used for, sanding between coats of lacquer or conversion varnish. But these are really cool, very innovative. They're sized just right. Got a lot of different grits here. 40, 50, 80, 120, 220, 320. Let me get out some of these, some 220 grit here, and I can show you a little bit more. The sizes are really cool. I mean, that's just about right for detail sanding, right? You can get right into the corners. It just feels perfect in the hands. I love it. So let me show you some situations that this stuff is really ideal. I can put a little bit of a contour to this, just bend it slightly. You see I've got these curved bar stool legs. Fantastic application for this. And sometimes you can put pencil marks here. And you can see just how effective that is. Right? It just conforms to that. Really good control. Here I've got a chair back or a crest rail, and might be kind of hard to see, but the top of this has this kind of a thumbnail profile, right? With this paper, let's see, I'm going to use some of this 220. I can kind of just bend it to conform to that. Man, that is awesome. Super quick. I don't know if you saw this, but this had a little bit of router chatter. Say that 3 times fast. But it just comes right out. Very effective. I love it. Here's another profile, also known as a thumbnail profile. You can see it has a bevel here, and then it sweeps down. We'll use some of that. And this is actually, it was a sample I made, so this has been lacquered. So this should show up pretty good. Again, you can just bend that a little bit to fit that profile. Let me see, one of these, 220. You can follow up with a smoother grit. Man, that is awesome, yeah? I use a lot of top coat type finishes, so these grits are ideal for me. If you're using an oil finish, a lot of those, situations, you'll sand up to a really higher grit. And these are actually a wet or dry. 1000, 2000, 3000 would also be ideal for automotive finishes. So, yeah, a lot of choices. So I'm making some seat pans for a buddy of mine. He brought this material. It's pretty rough, but they're exterior chairs. It won't really matter. So we decided to use some exterior plywood because it has exterior glue. Should hold up better. Anyway, making these seat pans, and had to cut out these profiles to match the old ones. And using some of this grit grip. This stuff is awesome because with 2 fingers, it just holds. It just sticks like that. Just smoothing up some of those areas. It conforms to those radiuses. A radius this way and a round over, and effortless to hold it. If you're using a single piece of paper, even if you fold it in thirds, that trick, it slides around. This stuff is awesome because it just sticks to your fingers or your hand. Quick and easy. I also like that they're color coded, right? 320 is black, tan is 220. I'm just using it to knock off these corners, right? Of course, you could do some of that with a hand plane, but I still like evening things out by going back over it with some fine sandpaper. I think the 320 feels about right. So yeah, awesome. So one of the first things you can notice about this grit grip, one of the first things I notice is how comfortable they are to hold in your hand, and it's almost effortless because they're back to back, and so you have this little bit of gription on the backside where your fingers are, and it just keeps it in place. You know, I've always glued my 220 grit back to back, just using you know, contact cement, and I glue those back to back for a couple of reasons. A, it's exactly for this reason, so that when you're using it, your fingers, it doesn't slide around like if it was smooth on the back. And the other reason, I can you know, use this piece and I turn it over before I have to go get another piece. And I primarily use 220 grit. This is sterrated. Anyway, it's designed for sanding finishes. You know, I use a lot of top coat type finishes like lacquer, conversion varnish, and that's primarily what I use a 220 grit for. With the exception of breaking edges, you know, or softening corners, things like that. But yeah, these are fantastic. I can see how these will soon be a new favorite for sure. All right, so this component, I was able to break the edges prior to connecting it to this, but I didn't want to chamfer this edge or break this corner because I wanted this to, you know, to make a nice seam or joint. But I can do it now, and I'm using this grit grip, and I can just get into those corners really easily, just like that. Yeah, man, fantastic. So one minor thing that I noticed when I was sanding these adjacent inside corners is that the edges of the grit grip would leave a little bit of black. It has a little bit of carbon from when they were cut with a laser. Simple fix. I just stacked all the pieces up together and wiped the edges with lacquer thinner. You could use alcohol or acetone, and that fixed that little issue straight away. Oh, and update, I did talk with the owner about this, and he believes a more powerful laser will mitigate the issue. Grit grip. I think it's going to do well. Dual-sided sandpaper. Yeah, man.